Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on marketing the e-commerce business. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator today and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'll be your host, and our presenter is Cliff Ennico. More on Cliff in just a minute, but first some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a national partner of the SBA, and we offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. First of all, we offer free one-on-one counseling, as you'll see on the next slide. And you can access that by face-to-face, video, telephone, email, whichever works best for you. And to do that, you can use the yellow bit.ly link that you see on the screen, or you can just go to our website and click on Request a Mentor. Secondly, we offer a wide range of educational workshops, webinars like the one today. And lastly, we offer extensive resources on our website, including access to subject matter experts. Our next live webinar will be Wednesday, January 10th at noon, and the topic is IRS resources for small businesses with Joe McCarthy presenting. You can find more specifics on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. And if you're on our website, we also have a large number of recorded webinars there that you can access on demand at any time. Just some logistics and some information about today's event. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please use the Q&A button, which is usually in the lower part of your screen. And Cliff will take as many as we can up until the top of the hour. We will end sharply at 1 o'clock to respect your time, and the session is being recorded, so you can access the link on our website within the next day or so. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Cliff Ennico. Cliff is a nationally recognized authority on small business, legal, and tax issues, and is best known as the former host of Money Hunt, the PBS television series for entrepreneurs. He is the author of 16 books, including the Crowdfunding Handbook, Raise Money for Your Small Business or Startup with Equity Funding Portals. Cliff also judges business plan and elevator pitch competitions nationwide. As an attorney and small business consultant based in Fairfield, Connecticut, he has helped launch thousands of businesses in his 43-year career. I'll now turn it over to Cliff. Cliff, it's all yours.
Hey, Bob, and thanks for that wonderful introduction. It's hard for me to believe I've actually been doing these programs for SCORE now for 40 years now. That's totally amazing. And what we're going to be talking about today is something that didn't even exist 40 years ago, which is really interesting. The whole field of e-commerce. I have been privileged over the years to meet hundreds of people around the country who are, selling stuff online. Some of them just sell on eBay and Amazon. Some of them actually have website-based businesses. I'm spending a lot of my time these days in my law practice buying and selling web-based businesses. There's a peculiar challenge to that. It's not like selling a brick and mortar business. But first of all, a couple of disclaimers. Now, if you ever wondered that I was a lawyer, now you have proof. We always tell you what we are not going to do before we tell you what we are going to do. The most important one here is the one in the middle. Basically, there's a very big difference between giving out legal information and giving out legal advice. Legal information is, here's what the law is all about, which is what I do for SCORE. Legal advice is, now, Bob, here's what you should do, and Joe, here's why you should do something different, and Mary, here's what that I can't really give one-on-one advice here. So I'm sure you have legal questions. I will certainly try to answer them to the best of my ability, but please don't rely on anything I say during this program. If I say something during this program and it sounds like a great idea and you do it and your business fails, you are bankrupt, your spouse divorces you, your kids don't want to talk to you, your dog pees in your leg, and you're living in a diaper box under the Brooklyn Bridge, you can't sue anybody. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, so welcome to the internet. It's been 25 years now. Hard to believe. But it has been, I think, well, actually closer to 30 years now that we have been dealing with the internet. When I first started practicing law, there was no internet. We did everything on 8.5 by 14 legal pads. That's how we did everything back then. We've learned a lot, but we're still learning. We're not, quite out of the learning curve yet. I always tell people today that being in e-commerce today, selling online, is a little bit like driving a car in 1918. Now, people back then were not stupid. They knew that the automobile was coming and it was going to transform the way, Americans traveled from one place to another. But, but in 1918, there were no the infrastructure for the automobile wasn't in place yet. There were very few paved roads. If you look at cars, if you go to a museum and you look at cars from back that time, they had these huge toolboxes strapped to the side of the car with big leather, straps. And, because the whole idea is if you broke down on a country road, you were the mechanic that had to get out and get under the car and fix whatever the problem was. There were no gas stations on it. It's kind of like the way the electric cars are now. If you think about it, history repeats itself. What's the famous quote? First time is tragedy, the second time is farce. What we're going through right now with the EVs is a lot similar to what people were doing with the gas-powered cars 100 years ago. Everybody knows it's the future. We're all going to be driving EVs eventually, but there are no charging stations on every street corner. It takes, a charge only lasts for about 200 miles, and it takes over a half an hour to charge one of these things, a Tesla or something like that. A lot of people are holding off buying electric cars until those numbers improve a bit. When it's as easy to run an EV as it is to run a gas-powered car, then we will all be making that transition. So think of selling online as a little bit like driving a Tesla. You have to know what goes on under the hood, and every year there is something new to learn. It's constantly, this platform is constantly changing. Okay, here are three basic principles of web marketing, and I don't think this has changed in the last 30 years. Okay, web marketing, selling on the internet is about pulling the customer, not pushing the customer. The internet was really the very first pull marketing vehicle that has been invented. For hundreds of years, about thousands of years, advertising was about pushing your message into people's faces. You have a billboard, you're driving on the highway, you can't help but look at the billboard. Or, telemarketing, it's all about pushing a message. When I was a kid watching TV, every 5 minutes there'd be a couple of ads, and I couldn't get away from them. Some advertiser for a product that I was absolutely not interested in was pushing a message in my face, and I had to sit through it to watch the next 5 minutes of the Beverly Hillbillies or whatever my favorite show was. That's the web is different. You can't get away with that. If you try to push your message into people's faces, everybody's got spam filters, pop-up blockers. We have all this stuff on our computers that the sole purpose in life is to block your message from getting through, even though it's a message those people need to hear. The way to succeed on the web is to pull people toward you, to seduce them. If I want you to look at some of my stuff on cliffennico.com, which is the website for my law practice, I have to somehow seduce you. I have to get you interested enough in me that you say to yourself, hey, this Cliff Ennico guy, he's kind of interesting. Let me see what he's all about online. You have to find me. And if you think that that's science fiction, how many of you here have learned about a new web-based business because you read about it in a newspaper or magazine article, and there was a link to the website? Okay, print media are not quite dead yet. They're on their way out, but they're not dead yet. Second basic principle, the web can be an absolutely unforgiving place. Mistakes are often brutally punished. The anonymity of the web enables people to gang up on you sometimes. And one of the worst things that can happen to you is you make a mistake and your mistake goes viral. And becomes the laughing stock of millions of people around the world. That did not happen. That could not happen before the internet, but now it's something that happens, unfortunately, all the time. We all know stories of businesses and companies that just made a slight misstep, and while years ago it probably would have just been shoveled under the rug, now it's viral and anybody can look at it in 145 countries around the globe. You have to be very careful what you do online. And then marketing online is labor and time intensive. It takes time to do this stuff. And it's time that really you never get back. So I always tell my clients, when you're looking to develop an internet marketing strategy, look for the biggest bang for the buck. Where are your customers really living? If you are selling, go where your customers are, not where you think they should be. So if you have a consumer-facing businesses, you're selling dog treats online or something like that, why do you have a LinkedIn profile? All right, maybe you need it for corporate purposes, for if you're looking for somebody to buy your business eventually, and you're looking for suitors, but that's not where your customers are. Your customers are going to be on Instagram. They're going to be on TikTok. That's where they're going to be. Focus on what works. You have to be ruthless. I mean, when you're first starting out, it's easy to cast your bread on the waters and throw yourself onto 15 different platforms. But after a while, you're going to realize that only one or two of these things work for you, and you have to be somewhat ruthless about cutting out all the 13 others that are not performing for you. Budget your time. Success on the web is largely a function of staying on top of things and updating what you do frequently. I confess I'm not the best at this. I am not really a social media maven. I only update my social media every couple of months or so, and that is glacially slow in today's environment. If you have a business that is generating a lot of business online, you have to be constantly creating new content and new postings every day. So, what does a successful e-commerce business looks like? This is what it looks like. This is my graphic here. Okay, so any questions? Okay, we're ready for. Are we ready? Are we ready for the Q&A now? Okay, no, absolutely. Okay, what the hell is this thing? Well, what it is an octopus. Okay, this is an octopus. And if you look at the octopus very closely, you'll see that the octopus has three parts to it. Okay, it has a head, first of all, with the eyes. That is also where all the digestive organs are, the stomach, the intestines, whatever. Right? I'm not, all I know is what I see on the Nature Channel. Okay, I mean, biology was not my best subject in school. Okay, let's just call it the head. It's where everything happens. Okay, then you have these tentacles, these 8 tentacles. That's why it's called an octopus. The 8 tentacles that float around the water, looking to seize prey. The octopus just kind of sits there. His tentacles kind of float in the water. And when a fish or something, some piece of prey passes by, it grabs it, and then you'll see on each of the tentacles there are these sucker things that push the prey toward the head, toward the mouth, toward the digestive organs, where the prey is consumed and digested. That is basically how an octopus works. An e-commerce business has three parts to it as well. And the head, let's talk about it. The head is your business website. Now, I know I can hear some of you groaning at the other end of this conversation. You're saying, dude, Cliff, it's 2023 now. We don't talk about websites anymore. We talk about apps. We talk about smartphone stuff. We're talking about AI. I said, okay, that's fine and dandy. But the fact of the matter is, every small business needs a website of its own. That is where everything happens. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, everybody expects you to have one. It's a total credibility killer for me when I'm looking to find another attorney online and I find out that they don't have a website of their own. I can find all their online reviews on Yelp.com and Avo.com and some of these places, but I can't find anything about them. I cannot find a place where they are telling their story. That is an incredible missed opportunity for a small business. People expect, if your business is Flibberty Gibbet Antiques, I expect you to be flibbertygibbetantiques.com. And if you are not there, it's a credibility killer for me. But the second reason is more compelling. And that is, there is one place and only one on the entire internet where you can sell stuff and keep 100% of the profit. And that place is your small business website. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can sell stuff on Facebook. You can sell stuff on, the social media platforms. You can sell stuff on TikTok, I think now. But the trouble is these platforms charge a lot of money for the privilege of selling on their platform. I mean, if you're selling on eBay, for example, I mean, those fees are pretty hefty. The buyer's fees that come out of your pocket. The only place where you can sell stuff and keep 100% is the stuff that is on your website. That's where your best stuff, your highest margin stuff should be. And everything else that you do on the web, like the octopus's tentacles, is designed to push business toward the head, toward your small business website. That is its objective, is to drive stuff to the website, because that's where you make the most money, and that's where you are in control too. Whenever you sell on another platform, you are subject to their rules and regulations, not yours. On your website, you get to make the rules. I spend a lot of time drafting terms of service and privacy policies and other, rules and regulations for my clients' websites. So that's the head. The second part of the octopus is the tentacles, and those are your outposts on other e-commerce platforms. Now, let me be very clear. An e-commerce platform is a place where you actually sell stuff, where people are buying stuff from you on that platform. So Amazon, eBay, Craigslist. Facebook is a place where you advertise, but if you are not actually selling stuff on Facebook, that does not qualify as a tentacle. That's in the third category, which I'll talk about in a minute. So definitely you should be, if you're selling used secondhand merchandise, eBay is the place to be. If you are selling stuff that you have made yourself or that is handicrafted, Etsy is the place to be. If you are selling new goods, or if you're doing any kind of white label merchandise where you buy stuff from China and you put your name on it, Amazon is the place to be. And if you're selling professional services, especially to a local market, Craigslist is the place to be. Or what's the other one? It used to be Angie's List. I think it's just called Angie's.com now, for like plumbers, electricians, and things like that. Okay, so those are the tentacles that are floating around in the marketplace looking for prey. And the third piece of the octopus, the sucker thingies, whatever they're called, I don't know biologically what they're called, that push the prey. Once the tentacle captures a prey, it pushes it toward the head so it can be digested. Those are your marketing activities. That's your Facebook, your Google ads, all the stuff that you do online to try to drive traffic, to your website and to your tentacles, to your other e-commerce platforms that are floating around the water. So building an online octopus takes 5 steps. Number 1, build a killer website. Number 2, establish your outposts on whatever platforms are working for you and where your customers live. Step 3 is market your web. Steps 3 and 4, these are your sucker thingies. Market your web presence online, market your web presence offline. Remember, I said before, a lot of people find out about new web-based businesses because they read about them in physical dead trees media. That is a dirty little truth of internet marketing that hasn't changed in 30 years. Non-digital marketing is still sometimes very effective, and it can be the most effective way to promote your business. Then last but not least, measure your performance. Find out how well you are doing, what is working for you. I said before, you should only be marketing where things are working. Well, how do you find that out? It's because of your web analytics. So those are the 5 steps. So okay, so now, this is just basically summarizing what I just said. Your e-commerce octopus, the head is your business website. Everything else that you do online are the tentacles or the sucker thingies that drive traffic to your website. Keep in mind, if you get nothing else out of this program, you got to have a small business website, and everything else that you do online, the goal should be to drive things to that website, because that's where you make your most money. That's where you get your best margins. That's where your best stuff should be. Understand the online marketing tools. There are many different choices, and they are multiplying rapidly. Budget your time. Nobody has enough time to be everywhere online. I do not either. Find out what works. Okay, so let's talk about these 5 steps. Master your website. Okay. Mastering SEO. Okay, search engine optimization, that's a big word, but basically, again, this is the seduction tool. Remember I said before that success online is largely a function of seducing your customer and making them want, well, the way you do it is through search engine optimization. When people are searching for whatever it is you do, they are using certain words, and you want them, when they search for you online and they use these words, you want them to find you. Now, what are the right keywords for what you do? Believe it or not, this is more complicated than you think. Do you think of me, for example, as a lawyer, or do you think of me as an attorney? Okay. What do you think of me as? And be nice now. This is one of the things I agonize with my search engine optimization. Do people search for an attorney? Do people search? One of the things you'll see if you look at my website at cliffennico.com, I don't use the L word. very often. What I do is I say, "Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico. This is what I do for people. Here are some of the most common things I do," and I have like 30 different bullets there, and a lot of them are somewhat repetitive. Drafting employment agreement, drafting contracts, buying and selling businesses. Because I've learned over the years that when people search, they don't search for a trust and estates attorney. Very few people even know what a trust and estates attorney is. Attorneys do. We use that phrase when we refer to another attorney, but most normal people don't do that. They're searching for an attorney to draft a will. That's what they're looking for. So if you're a trusted estates attorney, don't waste precious space on your website saying you're a trusted estates attorney. Say you're an attorney who does wills. You're an attorney who drafts trusts. You're an attorney, whatever it is. Talk about what you do, not what you are. Especially if you're a professional of any kind. There are services online. Most of them are free. Google Suggests, Google AdWords, Keyword Tracker, that can help you figure out what the best keywords are. And then when you draft your website content, uh, do things that will attract these search engine spiders. That's what they're called because their initials are SPDR. That will find you over other sites on the web. Use lots of nouns. Something that has not changed. Search engines are very attractive to nouns. Try to avoid complicated sentences. Use lots of nouns and don't be afraid to be repetitive. If a search engine spider sees that your website has a lot of the same noun, you get boosted to a higher ranking for whatever that noun is, because it looks to the spider like you're doing a lot of that particular noun, whatever that is. Each page should have its own content. Each document should have its own theme. Use the strongest keywords early in the copy. And don't repeat keywords unnecessarily. That can get you actually into legal trouble. We call that keyword spamming. And I'll talk about that just a little bit later on. Okay. So when it comes to internet marketing, there's two things you need to know about marketing a website. One is SEO, search engine optimization, which is what we just talked about. And the second is SEA, which we call search engine advertising. This used to be known in the old days as pay per click. Basically, you create an ad on, Facebook or Google or one of the major platforms, and each time someone clicks on the ad and is directed to your website, you pay a fee each time someone clicks on the ad, whether or not they buy anything. This is the thing you have to be careful about. Whenever you advertise online on one of the major platforms and you're doing search engine advertising, you pay a fee regardless of whether those clicks end up turning into actual business. One of the most important metrics in all of the internet is the ratio of clicks to purchases, to sales. We'll talk about that when we get to analytics. That's the most important thing. What's your conversion ratio? If you're getting millions of clicks, but no one's buying anything, well, congratulations. You might win an award for your web design or something, but you're not making any money. And that's the whole purpose of this, is for you to make money. Consider using Google AdSense. I mean, if you're really not familiar with this, use Google AdSense. That's advice I've been giving clients now for over a decade. Let them place ads on your website to drive traffic there. Okay, they're the experts. They know web advertising better than anybody else. That's how they make their money. So let the pros do the job if it's something you're not really familiar with. Okay, how do you keep these costs down? Okay, well, you have to know what keywords your customers are actually searching for. Again, do they search for lawyers or do they search for attorneys? Choose narrow, focused keywords or combination of keywords. The more specific, the better. You won't get everybody that's out there, but you'll get the most important people that are out there by using keywords that are narrow and focused. Try to be as specific as you can be about whatever it is you do. Begin your campaign slowly. Don't use don't start out at $5 a click. Okay. Build it slowly until you know what you're doing. Start out slowly. Just do a nickel or something, or a penny if you're allowed to do that per click, to test whether or not your keywords and ad text are working. Use negative keywords to eliminate irrelevant queries. So, for example, I do not do patent law of any kind. So patent or patent law is one of my negative keywords. I don't want to waste anybody's time sending me an email to have me respond, no, I'm sorry, I don't do patent work. Here's a patent attorney that I don't know. Use quotation marks to control the word order. What search engines tend to do is if you give them a 3-word phrase, they will put the word "and" in between. So if if I'm searching for search engine advertising, it will look for everything that has the word search, the word engine, and the word advertising in them. I'm sorry, it puts an "or" between these two. By putting quotes around it, I'm telling the spider that I'm only looking for places that have search engine advertising as a keyword, not just search or engine or advertising. Again, the search engine spiders tend to put an "or" in the middle of multi-word phrases. Eliminate broad searches. You want people who are, if you're selling mechanical banks online, if that is your thing, these are antiques that were very popular in the late 1800s and early 1900s. They were children's toy banks, but they were mechanical. If you put your penny in, it would do something cute to deposit the penny, kind of like a Rube Goldberg device. Very collectible. There's a few thousand of these that were made during the period between 1880 and 1940. If you are selling mechanical banks, you don't want people searching for antique toys. You want them searching specifically for mechanical banks because that's what you have to sell. And then last but not least, use analytics tools and be ruthless about removing ads that are generating clicks but not sales. I mean, people love to do this. We get together at cocktail parties and we talk about the number of unique clicks or unique users that we have. That's all nice cocktail party chatter, but at the end of the day, it's useless information. What I want to know, if you're going to be a client of mine, is how many sales are you getting online? I really don't care about the number of clicks that you get. Okay, you're getting a gazillion clicks because you got something cute going on, some cute videos of kittens playing with balls of yarn. Okay, great. But how is that translating into sales? That's what I really, really want to know. Okay, we have a couple of questions from the floor. Let me take a couple of these. Will we get the PowerPoint afterwards? The answer is no, but this program will be on archive at SCORE for at least the next 6 months, probably longer. Bob will say at the end of the program. But you can view this at any time free of charge. And you can pause it and you can do all kinds of stuff if you want to take notes. I know I'm accused of speaking very quickly. That's because I have a lot of ground to cover. Okay, I have a liquor store. Only 5% of my business is online. It's growing every year. How much money should I be spending on website marketing and SEO percentage-wise, in your opinion? Okay, liquor stores are very funny. Statistics show that the average person will not travel more than a few miles to get to a liquor store. Even the most raging alcoholic in the world will not travel 10 miles for a destination liquor store. Most people, when they want to buy booze, they go to their local package store, which is usually within a 2 to 3 mile radius of their home. So web advertising may work for you. What I might consider is that you do something on a site that is focused on your community. So for example, the town of Fairfield has fairfield.com. To the extent that they allow ads there, that is something you might want to consider. Nextdoor.com. What you don't want is to be on, well, you can't sell liquor on Amazon, but you don't want to be on a national program. I mean, people, unless you are doing a lot of mail order business. Now that is a different. So let's say, for example, you have a local winery in Connecticut. Now your customers there are going to be global. There, a presence on the major e-commerce platforms may make sense. But if you're just operating a regular retail package store, most of your customers are coming within a 2 to 3 mile radius. You want to be on platforms that will focus on your local community. I know that there's somebody in Fairfield County now is creating a series of actual physical newspapers. I give her a lot of credit. She's basically setting up a set of things which are designed specifically to promote small businesses in a particular town in Fairfield County. That is the kind of thing that you should be looking at, I think, more than this kind of stuff. But again, I'm not saying though that it won't work. It's just that you have to know your marketplace and know where the customers are. Don't spend money casting your bread upon, the national or international waters. When 99% of your customers are local and niche in nature. Okay, email newsletters. People aren't doing this as much anymore. The day of the email blast, where people used to send emails, that was a big thing in the sort of the 90s and the early aughts. People aren't doing it as much as they used to do, but for some people, it's good, especially if you have a subscription list and you're sending out reminder notices now. We're living in a world now in which people, have very effective spam blockers. You have to watch out for the anti-spam laws here when you're doing this. You just think you have exactly a half a second to get somebody's attention. I get literally hundreds of emails a day from people trying to sell me stuff. And most of them I don't even look at. Most of them just go into my spam folder. I check my spam folder every day just to make sure that a client email did not inadvertently go there, but I shut it. But the minute I do that, I just delete whatever messages are there. It's not a very effective way of marketing. Again, push marketing doesn't work very well on the web. It doesn't. The internet is all about pulling people to you. Keep it short. Use bite-sized info nuggets. Keep in mind, people don't have time. When I'm going through my inbox and deleting stuff, I'm only devoting a second to each of these things, maybe not even that much. So you really got to grab my attention with your title thing, or else, you've lost me. Keep it short and simple. I don't have time to read lengthy, volume, texts. There are companies that do e-newsletters. You might want to consider using one of them. There is, by the way, more and more now you are being required by the law to provide an opt-in option rather than sending somebody something and telling them and giving them an opt-out, which is the way things were done 10 years ago. The law is changing now to basically require that people opt in to your email newsletter, whatever it is you want people to subscribe to. So keep that in mind. There's something called an autoresponder where people can opt in. Something you should be using. Always allow recipients to opt out of your letter and make sure the link works. I hate it when I get junk mail and I click on the unsubscribe key and I go to a blank page. That to me says that I'm dealing with a fraud. So you do not want that reputation. Always give people, and use a mailing list manager, for your subscriptions, like Constant Contact. They take a lot of the headache off of you. They do when it comes to this kind of stuff. They handle all of this stuff, so you don't have to be dealing with. My father, when he was alive, God bless him, he was head of an alumni organization of a bunch of men who had served on the same ship, destroyer in World War II, in the Pacific Theater. And there were over 500 people who were members of this organization. And my poor father had the task of updating the mailing list. And that was the most thankless job in the world. He probably spent 10 hours of his life every week just updating and making changes to the mailing list for this organization. Now we live in a digital world. You don't have to do that anymore. Find somebody like Constant Contact that will handle all of those headaches and handle your subscriptions so that you don't have to. Blogs, they're a fast-growing area of the they're a fast-growing area of the internet. But let's put it this way: most of social media is really a blog or a vlog, video log. If you're doing a lot of stuff on Facebook, you are blogging. That is what you are doing. The tips for successful blogs: cool, compelling content. It has to be it has to be memorable. It has to be exciting. Remember, the purpose here is to seduce. You're in showbiz. People should actually look forward to your latest entry. People should look forward to getting this thing. Use a personal tone. Keep entries short and sweet. Include lots of keywords. Search engine spiders love blogs. Do you want to be interactive? Most blogging software will give you the option of either inviting comments or turning off on comments. There's something called an RSS feed that you can do to generate subscriptions. People can subscribe and keep it updated daily or weekly. I used to do a weekly blog. I retired from it earlier this year because it was just too time consuming. It was eating up my Sunday afternoons. And I'm at a stage of life now where I want to have more time for myself. The best person I ever knew who did this was many years ago, long before the internet. But when my wife and I moved into Fairfield, there was a guy, he was a local teacher in one of the middle schools. He was an English teacher, actually. And he did a lot of services. He was he would be like a clown for children's parties. But his biggest thing was that he cleaned blinds. That was his biggest thing. He cleaned blinds and did like window treatments and stuff like that. That's what he was into. So, he would send out a monthly newsletter, print newsletter. This is before the internet, but he didn't just send out a newsletter with his price list and what he was going to do. He sent out something called the Cleaning News. It was a 4-page mini newspaper, and he made it look like a newspaper. His motto, remember the New York Times used to have a motto, all the news that's fit to print. Well, his take on that was all the news that fits, we print. He was hysterical. The man was funny, and he had a sense of humor. So you'd get this thing, you'd open it up, and what would be looking at you but a picture of a dust mite? That's a bug magnified 50,000 times with an electron microscope. And let me tell you something, a dust mite is a very ugly bug when you look at him up close, okay? The food opened this thing and he would say, it's dust mite season with an exclamation point. Protect your homes from these vicious predators. These things are living in your rugs. It was hysterical. He would have, ads, mock ads like Saturday Night Live. He would put this thing, and you look forward to them. You see something like, question, is it okay to use a toothbrush to clean the grout in your bathroom shower stall tile? And he would say, yes, it's perfectly permissible, but make sure you don't use it as a toothbrush afterwards. I mean, that was the. Now let me just ask you, just me telling you the story about this guy. I don't remember his name. He left. He moved south years ago. He retired from teaching, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know if he's still living. But let me ask you this: how many of you like him? You do, don't you? Okay. How many of you would buy his services, carpet cleaning, window cleaning, blinds cleaning? How many of you would buy it on the basis of this piece of junk mail? You probably would. How do you know he's any good? You don't. But that's the beauty of it. If you have the ability to entertain, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got on public speaking came from an attorney who was this old grizzled, World War II survivor. This was many years ago, but he told me something I never forgot. He goes, Cliff, if you can't keep people awake, you can't teach them nothing. And that is the best piece of advice. If you're going to do any kind of web-based advertising where you're sticking things in people's faces, be entertaining, be funny. If I see a really weird headline in my junk mail folder, I might actually take a look at it. I say, oh, boy, this is interesting. This looks like fun. Let me take a second out. Let me look at that. That's the only way that this type of advertising succeeds. Okay. Microblogs being Twitter. Now it's called X, of course, thanks to Mr. Musk. I don't know. I've never been a big fan of Twitter. In terms of marketing a business, mainly because of the character limitations. There are other sites. These are some of these things. Bookmarking sites are very old-fashioned, but they're still pretty good, especially for businesses that have a very small and very targeted market. Chances are, if you're selling mechanical banks, there is a bookmarking site where everything mechanical banks is being discussed. Discussion threads, online forums, and easies. If you're doing something that's very narrow and nichey, that is the place to go. If, as I say, if you're selling mechanical banks, you can certainly sell them on eBay. There's a lot of them for sale there, but there's also a site called mechanicalbanks.com, which is the website of the Mechanical Banks Collectors Society of North America. These are people who only collect mechanical banks. They are the specialist collectors. Those are the people you really want to be in front of, as opposed to the gazillion of people on eBay who collect antique toys, but they're not interested in mechanical banks. That's not their thing. Okay, social networking site. Not much to talk about here. Facebook is really for friends and family. It's for consumer facing businesses. If you're a B2B business, LinkedIn. is the place to be. Instagram, if your business is Instagram really is kind of fading away now. TikTok is the big thing for short videos, but keep in mind not all businesses lend themselves to videos. I mean, a video of me sitting in my office drafting a contract for someone is not going to generate a lot of hits. Let's be very honest about it. What I do is not very photogenic or videogenic. But if what you're doing is, let's say if you have a small restaurant and you're a patisserie or something and you're making all these exotic French pastries, absolutely you should be on Instagram, you should be on TikTok and all the other video sites. YouTube, if you are a professional, a series of YouTube videos. I mean, I was amazed. Last year, I bought a Roku bar for my TV set, and I couldn't figure out from the instructions how to put it together. But in 5 minutes, I was able to find 6 YouTube videos from people showing me exactly how to connect this Roku bar to my brand of TV set. And I actually sent one of them something because I was so grateful. I was going to return this thing to Amazon, but thanks to this video, I was able to connect the damn thing. If that's what you are doing, to put up a few YouTube videos there showing people how to do basic stuff. Believe me, that the gratitude is there, and they will reach out to you in some fashion. I have become a big believer in YouTube and other video oriented sites. I'm not doing TikTok yet, but I mean, I cannot tell you how many calls I get. I mean, I sometimes will post some of these programs on my YouTube channel, which, by the way, you may want to look at. It's Cliff Ennico. If you search online for, Cliff Ennico YouTube, you will see I've got about 52 1-hour videos up there for small business, all free. I don't charge for any of this stuff. And I cannot tell you how many calls and emails I get every week from people who have seen my videos and have follow-up questions and that want to have a professional relationship with me. It's just a marvelous thing. If you give away a little expertise, it will pay you back tenfold. Um, Online reviews, get over it. People look for them, people read them. How many times, let's face it, when you're looking for something on Amazon, all right, there's a gazillion 5-star reviews, but let's face it, it's the 2-star ones you look for, right? Those are the ones. Find the sites that review business like yours. I mean, so for example, if you're a plumber, here are some of the places where reviews can be posted. Angie's List just changed their name. I think it's just called Angie's .com now. I don't think they just changed the name. I got to update this slide. But here are some places where you can advertise, and don't be afraid, but look at your reviews. Okay. I mean, if the review site allows you to create a web page for a reasonable fee, do it. If you are a customer, the review sites will do more to protect you against flaky reviews. That is a fact of life. They all work that way. Encourage your customers to post positive reviews. In fact, consider sending them a draft. People don't have the time. Let's face it, how many of you have time to do all these questionnaires that people are constantly asking you to do? None of us do. But if you make it easy for them, so for example, I mean, what people will do if they rave about the service that I perform, what I will do is I will listen to them. I will actually take notes and I will send them a thing saying, look, this is what you said in our conversation. Could you please post this on avo.com, which is that's a review site for lawyers. Could you please, let people know? Some people do, some people don't. But, if I do it that way, they're more inclined to do it. If I make it simple for them, post lots of positive reviews. That way, I mean, let's face it, if you have 10,000 positive reviews and 2 negative ones, no one's going to really care about the 2 negative ones. Uh, be careful about rewarding reviews. Whenever you give someone something in exchange for a positive review, believe it or not, it's a Federal Trade Commission rule that says that you must disclose that in the review. Somewhere you must have said, "I'm full disclosure. Cliff gave me $5 to post this review." Don't pay for reviews, for positive reviews, because that eventually catches up. That catches up to you. So, okay, podcasts. This is an industry that has exploded in the last couple of years. Everybody now does a podcast. In fact, there are so many podcasts out there. It's really hard to it's really hard to stand out in the crowd. Just remember, again, you must be entertaining. You need people generating buzz for you, saying, "Hey, there's this guy Cliff Ennico. He's a lawyer. But he has a podcast, and the guy is funny as hell. I mean, he actually can make you laugh talking about sales taxes. That's the kind of thing you want people saying, because then people get curious and say, "Oh, where do I find this podcast?" If you're going to do it, though, watch your voice. I mean, nobody remembers who Andy Devine was. He was a comedian and children's show host of the 1950s and 60s who had this very scratchy voice. He sounded like a bullfrog, basically. And it was kind of colorful. He was like a sort of a down-home country kind of guy, and for him, it was okay. He was able to get away with it. But if you have a voice that sounds like geese farts on a muggy day, consider having someone else do your podcast, or take some voice lessons. British accents always sound terrific. If you know anyone who has a British accent, this is the person who should be doing your podcast. And also remember, audio formats always, and this hasn't changed. One of my very first jobs was in radio out of college in 1975. And I will tell you, audio formats raise the pitch of your voice. So if I normally sound like this on a podcast, I am going to sound a little bit like this. So in order to compensate for that, you lower your voice, and it averages out. So if I am doing a podcast, this is probably the voice I will use, because the audio, the microphone will raise my pitch too. If you're using, I mean, invest, by the way, in a good microphone. I actually use a Yeti. It's called a Yeti Blue, Yeti Blue. That you can get them on Amazon for about 20, $30. Hook them up to your computer. You get, radio quality sound, and keep them short. Nobody has time. If someone's out on their morning run, they don't want a 1 hour podcast that they have to listen to in stages. 15, 20 minutes maximum. Okay. This is just some technical stuff. This is, if you want if you want to hire a producer, talkshoe.com. There's a bunch of others. Make sure you invest a little bit in equipment. Make sure you have a pop filter attachment. Most of us, when we use the letter P, we explode like that. And that just is very distracting to the listener. It's basically a thing that looks like a spatter thing that you use to prevent when you're frying something. You put a spatter proofer on top. In fact, I know people who actually use an actual spatter proof kitchen device as their pop filter, so that it mutes their pops. There's also and then also, again, your goal with a podcast is to generate subscribers so that you can eventually down the road sell advertising. YouTube, your stuff has to be visually compelling, education. Remember, it's not about you. This is not an ad. This is content that you are sharing for free with your customers, with your potential customers. Infomercials work, commercials don't. Is the thing. It's okay to sell something as part of your YouTube video, but make sure that that is not the purpose of the video, because people will sense that, and they will turn it and they will turn it off. One of the problems is search engines. They're getting better at it, but they still have trouble searching video content. So when you do a YouTube video, be sure to include keyword-rich titles and tags. Sweat the details. Lighting and background are important. Keep them short. And also put your website URL with a call to action in the YouTube video description box instead of the video title. The video description box is a very useful marketing tool, and you can actually do a little bit of advertising there. They won't get trouble by it. Okay, guerrilla tactics. I'm not a big fan of guerrilla tactics, but sometimes they work. Um, Offline marketing. Just remember what Zsa Zsa Gabor said: there is no such thing as bad publicity. Most guerrilla tactics, it's very difficult to do guerrilla tactics online. This is mostly limited to the brick and mortar world. One of the best pieces of guerrilla marketing I ever saw was years ago. I had to attend a convention, and one of the sponsors of the convention was booted off the island. They, for some reason, they, the organization that was hosting this conference, wanted to go with somebody else, so they booted this company off the island. What this company did, they didn't like being booted off, so what they did was they actually got a bunch of young people to hang out in the parking lot around the venue. It was at the Javits Center in New York. They actually got people hanging out all around the Javits Center. And when people got out of their cars and were walking to the Javits Center, they would hand them a shopping bag with the company name and logo, and they had some materials in there. Of course, everybody thought, oh, well, they're probably going to be at the convention, whatever, but they weren't at the convention. They had been booted out. So there's a situation where all these people at this convention were walking around carrying bright orange shopping bags from a company that wasn't, that had not taken out a booth at the convention. That is the best piece of guerrilla marketing that I think I've ever seen. Again, don't be afraid to be a little bit out there. We're starting to see this now, even in TV ads. They're all getting wackier, especially the ones for insurance companies. Insurance companies used to be the most staid advertisers in the world. Now we've got Flow for Progressive. We got all the crazy animals, the goat, the duck. We have all this stuff now. And the whole purpose of this is just to create attention and get a laugh. Don't be afraid of doing that. Here's a little dirty little secret. You cannot hate or dislike someone who makes you laugh. That is a basic law of human nature. You cannot help. When a comedian dies, the first word anybody uses about him is beloved, beloved comedian. That is the word. Anybody who makes us laugh, we love them. If you have the gift of humor, exercise it. It's a tremendous advantage. It's worked, pretty well for me too. Okay, new web marketing tools are being developed and launched each month. But you got to be a little careful here. Don't be so far ahead of the curve that you disappear from view. Right now, everybody's getting excited about AI and all this stuff, but I don't know. I would be a little slow to adopt. I'm not saying I wouldn't adopt it, but I would be very, very slow to adopt it, because some things don't work. I mean, about 10 years ago, people were talking about this thing called secondlife.com, which was basically virtual reality. Secondlife.com was the virtual reality site. You created an avatar and you accepted cryptocurrency, and you basically had this avatar interact with other avatars. This is what Facebook now is trying to do with Meta, what Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do. I'm not so sure I would spend a lot of time there. Facebook has had a lot of trouble selling the Meta concept. Nobody is setting up storefronts on Meta's VR platform, as far as I know. Maybe some of you may know more about this than I do, but I don't think that's happening. I don't think most people, again, don't be so far ahead of the curve that no one sees you. That can happen. Change tends to happen more incrementally. We're seeing this now with the EVs, and with a lot of the climate change stuff. I mean, don't worry, we'll get there eventually, but we're not going to get there in 10 or 15 years. It's going to be more like 30 or 40 years. Change tends to happen slowly, and the most effective change happens slowly and incrementally. Stay on top of the field, but don't get too far ahead and don't get too far back. That's the best advice. Last but not least, let's talk about measuring your performance. If you can't quantify it, it's only a rumor. Know your metrics. The click-through rate is the conversion rate is the most important metric. I said this before. That's the clicks to sales ratio. Everything else is in the middle, but you should know what these numbers are. Get Google Analytics, which is free, then look at other products that focus on the metrics that you care about most. And here are some links. When you're looking at this on archive, you'll have more time. So here are the keys to success. Be realistic about your products, your services, and yourself. Make sure you are selling to real people. Devote at least 20% of your total time to marketing activities. Never push this to the back burner, and be aggressive. Sales won't happen unless you make them happen. Here are some of my best-selling books, but there are also some other books here that are not by me that are very helpful, for people who are marketing online. And then here's where you can find out more about me, if you are interested in talking to me. We have a few more minutes to take some Q&A, and I think we can do that. I'm seeing there's a bunch of these here.
Yeah, lots of questions lined up here. So we're going to use the rest of our time for Q&A. Just a reminder, if you do want to submit a question, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll take as many as we can. Cliff, I think you already answered the one from Manish about the liquor store. So there's one here from Christine, I am very wordy. What's a good word count to keep short and sweet?
I'm very wordy too. I'm a lawyer. That's an occupational hazard that we have. We all have. We all love to hear ourselves talk, but just remember, people don't want to hear you talk. What they do want is they want to know that you care about them. So, I wouldn't hit people with a treatise on your blog. I would just do like maybe a couple of paragraphs. That's really all that's necessary here to get most points across. And then tease, another place. So, for example, when I do blog something, I always make sure that I publicize one of my books. Or here's a YouTube video that I've done that's an hour long that you should watch. That's how I get people to the more detailed content. I mean, the whole purpose of a blog is to remind people that you're still there. I'm of an age now where people are starting to say things like Cliff Ennico. Oh, he's still around. Oh, that's interesting. I thought he retired, even if he was retired. I'm starting to get that now. Okay, and like Bob's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Any score counselor relates to this.
Hey, I'm
Um,
there too, Cliff.
we're all there. The boomers are, we're getting up there, no secret, so I got to constantly block people to say, hey, I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still doing what I used to do. Don't forget me. That thing. So again, keep in mind that's really all that you're trying to do. I'm not trying to teach you how to become a better, web marketer. I just want you to know that I'm still around and that I'm still relevant and that, and that I still have something to offer the world.
Okay,
What would you?
we have
Yeah, go
another
ahead.
one. We have another one from Joanna. What would you recommend about podcasts with platforms for someone who has never done it but interested in doing podcasts? Or is it best to start with webinars? What is the YouTube resource you mentioned about YouTube videos to gain
Mhm.
expertise?
This is a very good. Well, it's actually three questions, but this is
Yeah.
a very good question about the podcast. Let's put it this way, I started in radio, so I'm very comfortable with the podcast format. I mean, I'm talking to a microphone and I'm talking into an empty room. If I'm interviewing Bob on the podcast, I don't always see him. That's a weird experience for a lot of people who've never done it before. If you're not really familiar with doing radio and talking into an empty room, maybe you should start out with webinars because then you can see the person, you can be more interactive. I mean, some of the best podcasts I've attended are basically, webinars or Zoom meetings that have been recorded. I mean, that's a very, very valid thing to do. It's more like a natural conversation. The thing goes from one person to another, so you can see facial expressions and stuff like that. Um, what is the YouTube resource you mentioned about YouTube videos to get? Well, first of all, I mean, YouTube has some excellent tutorials on how to do YouTube videos. But the most important thing is I would hire someone. Seriously. I mean, I got lucky. I mean, I just put a couple of my score things up there and they caught fire. A lot of people don't have that experience. There are books. I mean, YouTube for Dummies, for example, is really not such a bad book. But lot of it is just common sense. Like, don't use a background like this for a YouTube video. Have a blank background or something that's, colorful, like a beach or something like that, so that people aren't distracted by what you're doing. Um, you know, Audio quality is very, very important. Most people who watch YouTube videos don't watch the video, they just listen to the audio track. So, quality of sound is very important. Invest in a good microphone, maybe do a little bit of vocal training. I mean, I could write a whole volume. I should probably do a whole program on YouTube videos someday for score.
Yeah.
Okay, what would a good conversion rate be? This is a good question. What conversion rate be? The answer is as high as possible. That's the thing. I mean, if you're spending 10 hours a week and your conversion rate is something like 1%, you are wasting your time or you're doing something wrong. That's that's why the conversion rate is that's the success rate. If you have a high conversion rate, then your internet marketing strategy, whatever it is, it's working for you and you should continue doing it. Okay,
Cliff, I think
let's
we've got one from Michael that might be right down your alley here. I've heard that there can be complications or legality issues around one service website directing to an e-commerce website or vice versa, or that selling our consulting hours and selling products on the same website is not allowed. What is this about, and does this only pertain to certain industries or sectors?
Oh, wow. That's a complicated question. Well, let's put it this way. I'm not aware of any legal rule that says you can't sell products and services on the same website. I think from a marketing perspective, it's not the smartest thing in the world to do because it confuses people. So for example, I mean, I sell my legal services on my website, but I'm also selling my books. So, you know, that nobody seems to be confused about it because there's synergy between the two things. If you're doing two radically different things, so if you're selling antique toys and having a law practice, those are things I might want to put into separate websites, but it's not legally prohibited. Although I should caution, if you are in certain professions, for example, you are restricted from doing other things in the same medium. So for example, if I am a lawyer, you know, who also is I don't know, a comedian or something like that. There are certain rules of legal ethics that say I can do that, but I have to make it very clear whether I'm selling my comedian services or whether I am practicing law. I think most ethics advisors would tell me that I should have a separate website for the comedian stuff because it's not really dignified for a lawyer to, you know, show up and there I am in a clown suit at a kid's birthday party doing the balloons. It's not the image you want for your lawyer. So I mean, but I'm not aware of any legal restrictions that says you can't you know, do multiple things. But from a marketing perspective, especially if you're multitasking and you're doing multiple things, it's always a good idea to have a separate brand identity. What works for the comedian business, marketing wise, may not work for the law practice. The lawyer should be on LinkedIn. The comedian should be doing Instagram, TikTok, and all that other stuff. So that's my best answer.
Cliff, unfortunately, we are out of time, so that's all going to be all the time we have for questions today. Just as a reminder to people, the webinar has been recorded and the materials will be up on our website within the next day or so under on-demand webinars. And just a reminder, the next live webinar is Wednesday, January 10th at noon, and the topic is IRS resources for small businesses with Joe McCarthy presenting. And again, more specifics on our website. If you want to take advantage of the free counseling, as I mentioned earlier, you can use that yellow bit.ly link, or you can just go to our website and click on the request a mentor button. We'd appreciate it if you could fill out your evaluations at the end of the webinar. That will be automatically sent. And on behalf of SCORE, thank you to all of you for attending today's live webinar. And in closing, a special big thank you to Cliff for presenting today. Lots of great information there. And thanks again, and happy holidays, everyone. Thanks,
Yep.
Cliff.
You too. And happy holidays, everybody. If you asked a question and I didn't answer it, send me an email and I'll try to answer in the next couple of days.
That's great. Take care. Thanks.
You too, folks.